The biggest lessons I've learned in my life are here. Through different topics, I'm going to inspire and motivate you to reach your success and your dreams. I'm so grateful that you're here on Journey to Success. So let's enjoy my next episode together. Hey, Paul.
Hey, Fabio. I'm really sorry, my friend. I had connection issues. I had to change.
No worries.
I had to
No
change.
worries.
I had to come to my father's house from my house.
No worries. You're here. That's okay.
Yeah.
No worries. No worries. How
Deep
are you?
apologies.
Good?
I'm well, thank you. I'm well. Yes, yes.
All right.
Other than a little flummoxed.
Okay. Super. Great. I
It's
was
great to connect with
actually losing hope. I say maybe it's not gonna come.
I'm sorry.
You're here, and do not be sorry. Truly. Are you ready?
I am.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Super.
Let's do this.
Let's do it then. So we had a chat, as you know,
Yeah.
and you share with me your struggle with depression some time ago, and you are still experiencing occasional anxiety, as I understood.
Mhm.
But when did everything start?
Well, it's a great question because, we always want to look for some sort of a root. And, we hear a lot about this work around, the mother wound and the father wound and these things. And I have to say that for me, it was less about an awareness around when it started, as opposed to an awareness of when I became aware of it. And I think in a really meaningful way, it was in 2017, when basically, in the space of a 7-minute meeting, I learned from my then boss that I was no longer going to be employed with the organization I was with. So I lost my job, and everything that I saw myself as being in my family, which was to say a protector and a provider, was kind of taken away and had no more ground to stand on. And I realized that in that moment, and especially over the coming weeks, that I was really struggling just to kind of get myself out of bed, of course, but then also to find myself being motivated about doing anything, and really about being able to navigate out of this this feeling of depression.
So who knows? Maybe you were already suffering in the past, but
Sure.
That was the moment where you actually understood. You were aware about it.
Yes, and especially now looking back, one of my mentors defines depression as the collapse of imagination, of seeing things as being any other way. And I wasn't able to see a way out of my experience in that moment. And that's what really led me to the feelings of depression.
All right. And does anxiety cause depression, or depression cause anxiety? How works?
It's a great question. I personally feel as though they're two different things. We can be anxious about something without being depressed. We can be anxious, anxious and anxiety can potentially even be something that we feel when there's something positive that is about to happen. We can feel anxiety leading up to our marriage or the birth of our child or anything, So I think anxiety becomes a negative in our lives when we start to focus more on the influences outside of us and how they can affect us, as opposed to how we will show up in any particular moment.
Catch it. That's actually interesting, because it's true. Anxiety doesn't lead always to depression. Anxiety can be actually something comes from a positive situation as well.
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Didn't think about it. It's true.
When the birth of my third daughter was, happening in front of me, I had a lot of anxiety. What if something goes wrong? But this is a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
And,
But
and probably
also,
more importantly is, can I be a good dad again?
no, no, I'm sure you did great. I'm sure you did great. But I mean, um, so anxiety can lead to a bad situation and a good situation as well, or not?
I think it can. Again, I think it's really, I'm a firm believer that, look, there are definitely people who feel and pass through moments of depression who
Yeah.
require medical support, and they require some kind of intervention with medication or whatever the case may be. But I think for the majority of us, you know, it's our relationship to the emotion and the experience that defines whether or not we will find ourselves in periods of depression or things like that. And when I started to be curious about the emotions I was feeling and be more aware around what were the experiences that led me into states of depression, I was able to actually navigate them much quicker. I would potentially still, and I will still potentially go into moments of depression, but because of how I have shifted my relationship to those things, and really I try to lead with curiosity, I'm able to find my way through it more quickly, more healthily, and hopefully, although it's a little bit of a cliche, stronger on the other side, you know, but
No, it's correct. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, before you mentioned your child, right? So
3
I would
girls,
like to
actually.
go. Well, I guess for you it's still your child, so it's still
Absolutely. 3 girls, 3 girls. Yeah.
nice. And I would like to go a little bit deep about it. So in our
Yes.
chat, you say to me these exactly words. I think I read also in the biography. So I think the biggest, I'm going to read it, yeah? I
Yeah.
think that the biggest challenge that I have overcome is my struggle with mental health, which saw me on more than one occasion wondering if my daughters deserve a life that did not include me in it.
Yeah.
So these words carry some weight.
Yes.
So what led you in the past to have these thoughts, to not deserve their love? It's pretty heavy.
It's very heavy, but again, when you are raised to believe that your sole role, your sole mission, your sole goal as a father is to be the protector and the provider, and you find yourself in a position when you're not doing that, then,
Yeah.
and you know, I like to think of myself as responsible. So there's life insurance and there's all these other things that are put in place that can protect them. Will they be better off in a situation where I'm not holding them back, where in fact my no longer being present could actually potentially free them of me as a bad example, of me as not being able to provide, of there's many different ways that we can frame those things, but it was really, me. In one moment in particular, I was sitting on the curb outside of the front of my home in the middle of the night, and I was like, maybe I don't go back in.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe it's better.
Wow. Well, at the end, you did great, as I understood. So you overcame.
Yeah, and it's, again, I think it's important to remember that to say that I overcame and, fighting with mental health and all of these things,
Yeah.
I really did try to shift away from that kind of language. And I don't know what drove me back into the house that night, but I did go back in. And over time, it was that reframing that really was through my coach and therapist, who helped me to rethink those things and to experience them in different ways, and to really drop into and think about, when I'm feeling something, where am I feeling it in my body? What is it trying to tell me? I have a lot of my emotions actually I feel in my legs, interestingly enough. And a lot of that has to do with the notion that I've always, again, wondered, do we face something head on or do we run away from it? And so there's a lot of that energy that I navigate.
Wow. I tell you something now. Before, I don't know if it's destiny or casualty, right? But meanwhile, I was waiting you. I was consuming some content. Thanks God, I'm not a great consumer on social media. I'm very happy for that.
Yes.
But I was truly waiting you, and there was this content was very beautiful. I think it's something you will remember so far. So there was this teacher. I don't know if you never watched this content. So there was this teacher in a class, and he had money. He had $20, and he say, "Who likes to have this money?" And then, of course, all the students say, "Me, I want the money. I want this money. I want this money." All right. So if I scratch it in this way, do you still want it? Yeah. Still want it. All right. And if I throw away or I make it bad, or if I put in a glass of water, whatever, you still want it? Yes, I still want it. And at the end, he say, "See, that's a very important experiment, because it doesn't matter what I do with this money. They have the same value. And what you have to understand is, doesn't matter what happened in your life, because life it can't be perfect, but whatever happened to you, you have to understand that your value is still the same." It catch me. It's truly catch me. It was very, very beautiful content. So 95% of the content on TikTok and Instagram are not the best, but sometimes you catch this,
Yes.
So was very, very beautiful, and I think matched perfectly with this story of yours with your children.
I think it's
that they're not children anymore.
Yes, no, they're a little bit older now, but I think it's a powerful story, mostly because money is a story. The piece of paper that we call money in and of itself doesn't have any value. It's the story that we have created around money that gives it the value. And so what is the story that we associate with ourselves? What is the story that we are listening to or speaking to ourselves right now in this moment will define whether or not we see value for ourselves. And so doing the best that we can to hold on or to curate and to nourish the stories that nourish us, that tell our story in a healthy way, is one of those ways. One of my coaches at one point, she suggested that anytime I have somebody who sends me an email, I do some one-on-one and some group work. And whenever one of my clients or one of my groups sends me a comment or some feedback that is positive, to put that in like a special file, so that when I have doubts about myself, I can go back and I can remember the stories that are shared from other people, and I can re-embody that story.
Kind of writing like a letter for yourself, like
yes.
In a way to, in a moment of in the dark moments, you can read back. I think
exactly.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah,
I never thought about it.
And we get those messages all the time, right? We really do, but we don't pay attention to them, and we almost, especially, and I don't want to speak for everyone, and I don't want to generalize, but a lot of men, in my experience, were not really taught to receive that recognition or that moment of celebration. It's, well, yeah, I just had to do that, and now I go on and I try to create success again. What's my next goal? What's my next? We need to slow down, and we need to take a moment to feel that in our bodies, so that we can truly experience what it means to feel good about ourselves. Because we're allowed to.
Yeah. We run too much.
We do.
We run too much, and for me, this year has been always pretty busy, and the job and the podcast and the house.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna buy the house with my partner, and the travel and everything, and was actually interesting when I asked her, but listen, once we have a child, I just hope we slow down a bit, right?
Right. Well, this is part of that is also, how can you slow down now before the child so that the muscle is already in place? You don't want the muscle, you don't want to start training the muscle when you have to move the heavy thing.
Exactly.
You need to train the muscle now.
Exactly.
So that it's ready.
And exactly. And then actually she answered, she say, listen, once, because she had a little sister, so she knew perfectly how it works. She say, no, actually, once we're going to have a child is slow for itself. So you must be slow as well. You must chill as well, because everything has to be, like the child say.
Yeah.
At the start, at least.
Yeah.
So
and the child will be a reflection of the energy that you and your partner bring into the room, right?
Exactly. So we are trying to do everything good right now in a way that is going to be in the right place later. And we are going to do this also to avoid unplaceable situations that can lead to anxiety and depression. That's not our case, but you never know.
Yeah.
So it's not something that you can predict. I think you know very well. It's not that you knew it.
No.
That you suffer anxiety. So
absolutely.
Yeah. And all right, so talking about relationships still, how did depression and the anxiety impact your relationships and vice versa? So how did your relationships influence your experience of dealing with depression and anxiety?
Yeah, that's another great question. I mean, without question, especially if the other partner is the other person, it doesn't actually even have to be in partnership. It's all relationships get affected.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, in my experience, it's about being as open and as honest as you can with what you're experiencing, without also making the person feel as if either they're responsible, they have to carry something for you, or be responsible in any way. That really all you want them to do is see you in your experience. Is something that I have come to realize. I always tell people now, like, if you want an open conversation, get ready, because that's all I know how to do. And if you don't, then maybe we shouldn't talk. Because I've come to the point where if it doesn't start with mental health, it doesn't start. And part of that is sharing where I'm at in my experience. And again, that doesn't mean that every time I'm in conversation with somebody, it has to be this heavy, laborious thing. And if I'm going through something, then I need to be able to share that with you so that we know the dynamics of the conversation that we might have. And maybe it's a better opportunity for us to transition away from that thing we were going to talk about, so that it doesn't get, if you're suffering from a certain series of emotions that are pulling you into depression, and you're meant to talk about something that has implications that go far beyond the current moment, or that might affect other people, sometimes the best thing you can do is withdraw yourself from that conversation so that it doesn't toxify what's happening. More specifically, it definitely had an impact in how I was able to show up and be there for my girls in certain moments. I would say that there are certain friends that I wasn't able to be with for a long period of time, especially male friends, because again, it's this go, get over it, move on, man up kind of energy a lot of the time. And it makes us feel more, it made me feel, let me own my experience, it made me feel as if I was failing even more than I was already feeling I was failing, because I couldn't just get through it like I was hearing my friends telling me I should do. and they don't know.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
I anymore. I don't know what they're going through and how they navigate tough moments any more than they know how I do. And so the one thing that I think we need to explore deeper as men is how can we just be there for someone as opposed to trying to fix something for someone.
All right. So the key is communication, as I can hear, as always.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, looks like so simple and discounted, but communication is the key. Communication with your wife, with your partner, communication with the children. So it makes totally sense.
Communication with your employer if needed.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, I feel like that's probably one of the places where we have an opportunity to do the most work, because we are spending, anywhere from, let's call it 7 to 10 hours a day with our employers, working on projects for them or whatever the case may be. And if we cannot share with our employers what we might be navigating in our personal life, in some way, and where we are not put into performance improvement plans because of it, then it's naturally going to lead to destructive behaviors at work. And when I say destructive, I don't mean physically destructive. I mean, the work will not be done properly. We'll become, angry and frustrated with our employer because they're asking us for things that feel inconsiderate, but it's only because the employer's not been able to share in what you're going through, but it's because you don't feel safe to bring it to them. So it's this vicious circle, that I'm not an HR professional, so I don't know the simple solution for this, but I do feel that more managers should probably be trained in navigating some basic mental health situations to be able to support their employees.
Before we go through, if you're enjoying this podcast, please consider taking just 3 seconds to share it with someone else. It is a small gesture that could make a big difference in someone's day. Now, sit back and enjoy the rest of the episode. Wow. That's absolutely true. This thing that you say, right, about how you feel. I mean, I'm not an anxious person, honestly, but sometimes when I do too much, I feel like a small ball. And when I finish my work, it's something that I cannot go out easily. For me, it's very hard also to watch TV. I mean, I just need air. I'm too much over. So as I said, I don't think it's a form of anxiety, but it looks like I have not to go over that line, let's say, in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think again, it's this notion of we celebrate unstoppable, right? Become unstoppable is a mantra that really, probably started in the 70s and for the large part continues to carry through today. And so we go from our workplace and doing how many ever hours there, and then we come home and there's no break, right? You go right into, if you're a parenting mode, you're driving the kids to soccer, and then you're, coming home, making dinner, and then there's homework, and then there's laundry, and all of these things. And, we're in a moment in time where we cannot dispute any longer that we are in an epidemic of mental health. It's a crisis like never before seen. Death by suicide is rising in almost every demographic and in almost every part of the world. And I truly believe that it's our addiction to this notion of becoming unstoppable that is a major driver behind it. And so one of the skills that I encourage people to develop is develop the skill of becoming stoppable.
Wow.
And it's quite counterintuitive. And I'm not saying that you should stop, but can you develop the skill of actually becoming stoppable so that you can hear what your partner is saying, so that you can hear what your child is saying, your employee, so that you can hear what your body is saying. Taking 3 minutes, 5 minutes just to be stopped for a moment and to listen to your body could help you to hear something that 6 weeks from now, if it doesn't get heard, will result in some sort of a crisis. Right?
Yeah. Hear, yeah. And heal, especially. Heal yourself, especially. Hear and heal.
Hear and heal. What I like to say is hear and whole, because, and the reason I prefer whole versus heal is because healing has a kind of a goal energy to it, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's the sense that we need to attain something to be healed. Whereas the whole experience, WHOLE, is an invitation to just know that it's there, to just understand that it's a part of your experience right now, to just include it in your relationship with your day to day, so that there's no need to, quote unquote, get over it or get by it or to push through it. And it's a much more gentle and a much more open invitation for that experience to be understood. And when we can understand it better, then we're able to navigate it better. Again, it's a nuance, and the word heal etymologically comes from the same etymological base as the word whole anyways. So they're the same energetic footprint etymologically. So I'm not saying anything that's overly different, but our words are like spells, and the choice of our words will determine the energy and the relationship we have with the experience. So by shifting to whole, for me, as opposed to heal, doesn't require me to get to a point to feel healed.
Wow, beautiful. Whatever you say, that's perfect for a conclusion, but I still have to make a couple of questions. I have to go forward.
Please.
That was truly perfect.
Thank you.
All right. No, beautiful. Really, really, really beautiful. And even if you have overcome depression at the end, right? So are you still dealing with anxiety, as I understood? It's part of you. So is there no cure about it, or yes?
Again, I think I struggle with the desire to seek a cure, because that is a striving for something, a striving for mastery over whatever might be causing or sourcing my anxiety. And if I tried to master all of the different things that could bring me anxiety, I will spend my whole life just trying to master the next thing that will.
You would just lose energy.
I will just lose energy, and I won't actually be able to show up in the world for my daughters and my community and any of these things. And so the notion that I want to cure anything, and for me, again, there's nothing to actually cure in my experience. And I always come back to that, because I don't want to speak for other people who might be in different situations and have different experiences. But for me, in my experience, the source of my anxiety is almost always the relationship that I have with that external thing when we're talking about a negative experience that is anxiety driven. So
Right.
how can I reframe my relationship? How can I um, reposition myself in that moment, in that experience? These are the things that have been nourishing for me. And again, because we absolutely can agree that mental health, or a lack of mental health, I suppose, is absolutely a disease. I think it's important, again, and it's a bit of a cliche, but it's really about dis-ease in this particular moment. And so how can we create some ease within the dis-ease so that our relationship with that experience changes? Mental health and mental unwellness, or mental unhealth, or whatever you want to call it, challenges with our mental health are movements in time. There are things we flow in and out of. They are not us. They don't define you. They are about the experience you are having in this moment, for the most part. Again, there are people who absolutely need medical intervention. It's biological. I don't dispute any of that. But for most of us, that isn't necessarily the case. And so how can we reframe? How can we reposition ourselves? And I'm not interested in curing my depression, because I don't think my depression is any more than the way that I'm thinking about something. And I would argue as well that if my goal is to always be happy, how will I know that I'm happy if I'm always happy? We kind of need the other side.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
To know
correct.
something. So
All right, nice. Paul, we are close to the end.
Yes.
I just have just one question. I think it's very important for the community. So what advice would you give to people in a similar situation with a similar condition?
Yeah, thank you. First and foremost, offer yourself some grace. Be gentle with yourself. You're not meant to be perfect. Your life is not meant to be unicorns and rainbows every single day. That would actually be exhausting, and you would have a headache from all of the rainbow and unicorniness in your life. So be gentle, be graceful with yourself. Allow yourself to slow down and to be stoppable. Find a small group, or even one other person, that you can hold this kind of space with. And hold is the big word there, because they don't necessarily need to do or say anything. Can they just be there while you experience what you're experiencing? Right?
Nice.
And then there are some very fundamental things, right? We absolutely positively need to spend more time in nature as a global community, right? We're far too indoors. We need to, I love walking barefoot on the ground. It's one of the most nourishing things. If you can get near water, get near and in water. These are all simple things that actually bring us back to ourselves. And that's what we really are being invited to do when we suffer from these moments, is to come back to ourselves. And when we do that,
thank you,
we find out that we're okay, that we're whole.
Nice. Beautiful. Beautiful. Do you like to say anything else before to conclude, Paul? Very beautiful, everything.
Thank
truly.
you. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very, very grateful.
Of course.
And, whoever is out there and is listening and is feeling anything that is even remotely similar to what we've been talking about today, you're not alone. Just reach out. We're here.
Wow. Thank you so much, Paul. Truly.
Yes.
Thank you. And well, see you soon then. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much, Fabio.
even if it was a little bit late, it's
and
okay.
Again, On the record, apologies. I'm so grateful that you are still here.
No, no. I'm a patient
I can see
person.
that.
I was really here waiting for you, and I was good with it, so it's fine.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for the work that you do and the message you're bringing to the world. It's important right now.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, people needs to understand the world, needs to understand the life, and need also to accept what we have to go through, deal with it, and be happy at the same
100%.
time. So yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, my friend. I wish you a great day. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye. Here we are. Congratulations. You just finished my entire episode. So the only thing I ask is to take a moment to give Journey to Success a rating. By the way, thank you so much for being here on Journey to Success. I'm very grateful. Thank you, and see you next time.